Hi, welcome back to AWS Supports You. My name is Clint Wyckoff, and I'm an enterprise support manager based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Thanks for taking a few minutes out of your day to join us. So today on AWS Supports You, we're going to be sharing best practices and troubleshooting tips from AWS Support. And joining me, I have Raj from AWS Support. Raj, why don't you, first of all, welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining us. It's good to have you back. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Raj, and I'm a principal TAM based out of New York. And I've been with AWS for about 5 years now, and I specialize on data analytics and machine learning.
Fantastic. And for those of you that have joined AWS Supports You before, again, thanks for coming back. And for those of you that are new, be sure to go and check out Raj's episode that I'll throw in the chat here in a second, where he talked about an entitlement that enterprise support customers get, which is called infrastructure event management. But now to the topic for today. And before we get there, a note to the attendees online, please throw your questions and thoughts into the chat there. And also drop us a note and let us know where you're tuning in from. We definitely want to hear from you. And as we go through the course of the presentation today, Raj is going to have 2 demos. And at the end of each one of those sections there where he does the demos, we'll leave time for some questions and answers. So the topic is using Amazon SageMaker Data Wrangler and AWS Glue DataBrew for exploratory data and analysis. Raj, why don't you give us a rundown of what we're going to talk about today in detail?
Perfect. Thank you. So today we're going to talk about exploratory data analysis. So let me give a use case for context before we get started. In my current role as technical account manager, I was working on predicting escalations to specific teams based on past escalations from cases that we receive. And in this case, I used SageMaker Studio, SageMaker Data Wrangler for data cleaning and transformation. Also carried out the model building for prediction using SageMaker Canvas. I'm not a data scientist, but in this case, I was able to understand the trends in data, visualize the pattern, and correlate between the data patterns, and eventually prepare the data, create a model, and deploy the model to production to make predictions, all with SageMaker features such as Data Wrangler, Canvas, Autopilot. All of these are low-code, no-code AWS services or service features. This prompted me to work on this session to share my knowledge on how you can quickly carry out data analysis and data transformations easily with point and click using AWS services. The example we will use in our demo today is a churn prediction use case. I'm just giving a heads up. We'll discuss about that as we move forward into the demo. Okay, what is EDA? As the name indicates, EDA is for exploring the data and preparing the data for the next phase of model building and training, all within the machine learning pipeline. EDA is unavoidable, and it is one of the major steps to fine-tune the given data set in different form of analysis. That is to understand the insights of key characteristics of various entities of the data set, such as columns, rows, applying pandas, numpy, statistical methods, and data visualization packages. First, let's talk about why. Data preparation has always been considered to be a tedious and resource-intensive job due to the inherent nature of data being dirty, and it is not ready for machine learning in its raw form. Dirty data that we are talking about here, that could be missing or erroneous values in the data, or there could be a lot of outliers and so on. Feature engineering is often indeed a way of transformation of inputs to deliver a more accurate and efficient ML model. Forbes did a survey back in 2016 that showed about 80% of ML engineering teams' time is spent on preparing the data. Consider the ML process and how the data exists. Here are some of the common challenges with data preparation in ML. It's time consuming, it's resource intensive, it requires multiple tools, and data preparation tools are typically not DevOps friendly. And common data preparation tasks require writing code. Now, before we get into the exploratory data analysis phase, a brief intro of ML for beginners. What is machine learning? Machine learning is a subfield of artificial intelligence, which is broadly defined as the capability of the machine to imitate intelligent human behavior. So let's take an example, right? Or maybe a brief overview of machine learning in comparison to compute, because we all know about compute. So we just wanted to compare that with compute to get a good understanding. In compute, x and the function is given. So in our case, y is equal to x plus 1. And what is unknown? Y is unknown. And the focus is on y, computing the output. Whereas in machine learning, we know x and we also know y, that is the input and output. We feed that into the system so that it can learn the relationship between x and y by itself and come up with the function to predict y given x. So here, if you see, the focus is on the function. That's the key differentiator when you compare machine learning with computing. Here is a typical machine learning process or pipeline that starts with business understanding, that is followed by understanding and analyzing the data. Then after the data is prepared, we proceed to the model evaluation phase, model build phase, and then deploy the model to production. As you see, preparing the data is the first and crucial step in machine learning. In our session today, we're going to focus completely on data understanding and data preparation phase, which is going to be the first step within your machine learning pipeline. And much of your success for your ML projects depend on this particular phase, because this phase determines what data is presented and how is it presented to your ML training, model build, and deployment. If you look at what's powering the ML ecosystem, it's all about customers who are reinventing their businesses with data. And data is the underlying force that fuels the insights and predictions that feed to better decision making and innovation. I would like to give you a holistic view of the data aspects within machine learning, and hence the slide. What you see here is a typical data integration ecosystem, where you start with different data sources such as Amazon RDS, on-prem, streaming data, and other databases. That's what you see on the left side. And then you connect to these data sources, you catalog the data, you analyze the data to interpret meaningful insights from the data. And then you carry out different transformations such as ordinal transform, one-hot encoding, removing columns, and so on. After all these EDA activities, the data goes into your data lakehouse, where it resides for other teams to consume on further analytics, and the data warehouse activities for the downstream and machine learning pipelines. To get ready for a machine learning model, you first need to collect the data, which could be in different formats from different sources. Those could be databases, warehouses, which may require creating complex queries. Or sometimes this data might exist as just CSV files in S3 bucket. After the data is collected, it needs to be transformed into a usable format. Transforming your data requires you to write code and complete tedious tasks. After the data is transformed, then you write more code to see the visualization. And that is primarily to inspect and analyze the data, such as quickly detecting outliers, extreme values within the data set. As you inspect and analyze the data, you typically uncover more data that will be helpful for your model, such as mean, median, your growth rate, or rolling averages, which requires more time on coding and other aspects. After you have prepared your data in your development environment, you must take the data preparation work to production. This is all tedious process, which is like aggregating the data, preparing the data, and the data prep workflows can take months to complete. With SageMaker Data Wrangler or AWS Glue DataBrew, this process gets much simpler. When we talk about EDA, we have so many options, and you have the freedom to select the options that is right for your use case. And what type of prediction problems that you work on pretty much determines what type of EDA tools that you have to choose. Broadly, we have the following options to do EDA on AWS. First, SageMaker processing, which is a capability of SageMaker that lets you easily run your pre-processing, post-processing, and model evaluation workloads on a fully managed infrastructure. The middle two tiers that you see here, which I've highlighted, Amazon SageMaker Data Wrangler and AWS Glue DataBrew, these two are considered to be like a low-code, no-code solutions for your EDA activities. And we are going to dive deep into these two options in our session today, so I'll skip that for now. The fourth option that you see here is Spark in EMR. Many organizations use Spark for data processing and other purposes. And in these situations, Spark clusters are typically run on Amazon EMR, a managed service for Hadoop ecosystem clusters, which eliminates the need to do your own setup, tuning, and maintenance. Let's dive deep into Amazon SageMaker Data Wrangler. Before we get into SageMaker Data Wrangler, let us see what SageMaker is. So if you look at SageMaker, it is a comprehensive machine learning service that enables business analysts, data scientists, and ML ops engineers to build, train, and deploy machine learning models for any use cases, regardless of their ML expertise. Business analysts can make ML predictions using a visual interface using SageMaker Canvas. This is your point and click model creation service. Data analysts can easily prepare data and build, train, and deploy the machine learning models using SageMaker Studio. ML ops engineers can deploy and manage models at scale with SageMaker ML ops. SageMaker Data Wrangler is a feature of Amazon SageMaker enabled through SageMaker Studio that makes it easy for data scientists and ML engineers to aggregate and prepare the data for machine learning applications by using a visual interface, that is to accelerate the data cleaning, exploration, and visualization. Data Wrangler pretty much addresses all aspects of data preparations needed for machine learning. You can quickly inspect and import the data from multiple sources, leverage built-in data transformations, which are built in PySpark, or build your own custom transformation in PySpark, SQL, or Pandas. Visually analyze the features, evaluate, and iteratively improve the model accuracy, and quickly deploy the data preparation jobs into your own production environment, all using a visual interface. And note that this is all without having to write any code. Data scientists need to collect data in various formats, and those could be from different sources, which requires creating complex queries and the tools that you use that needs to import the data, and you got to prepare the data within a data prep environment. After the data is imported, you view the statistics and you access a suite of built-in data transformations that are designed to reduce the tedious tasks such as data cleaning and exploration. Visualization is a critical task in data preparation workflow because data scientists need an intuitive understanding of the data to quickly detect problems. You can use built-in data transformation tools to transform the data into different formats, and then you can use that to build accurately the different ML models that is required. Preparing high quality data that is for the training aspects requires collection of data from different sources, as we were talking about earlier, because data is available in different sources. And this often requires you to write complex queries, right? So let's take SageMaker, for example. Like, how do you choose the data sources? You can use SageMaker Data Wrangler's data selection tool, and you can quickly select the data from different data sources, such as Athena, Redshift, Lake Formation, S3, and also data from SageMaker Feature Store. And this also includes support for common file formats. So what are those file formats we are talking about? CSV files, Parquet files, and newly introduced within SageMaker Data Wrangler, you could also get JSON files and ORC files. These two are new. And as it was present earlier, you can also import the database table directly into Amazon SageMaker. Before importing large volumes of data for the data sources, you could query and inspect the data in place to understand its relevance, and all from the SageMaker Data Wrangler. And as you can see, the data visualizations can help you to intuitively understand the data. And we are talking about some of the graphs or templates like histogram, scatter plots, box and whisker plots, line plots, and bar charts. All of this built in. And again, we are not writing any code here. This is all just point and click, which we'll cover that within the demo. SageMaker Data Wrangler also helps you to interactively create and edit your own visualization so that you can quickly detect outliers or extreme values. For example, you can select the histogram template, select the columns of data to plot, and plot a histogram without writing code. Data scientists can use the preview modeling capabilities to quickly understand the ML model accuracy and diagnose any potential issues in the data preparation workflow. You could also quickly carry out diagnosis on common ML issues like target leakage or multi-collinearity. All of this with Data Wrangler's built-in analysis. You can easily understand how the analysis works from informative explanations that come included with each analysis. And that's the core, so that you get an understanding of why this particular analysis or what is the data pattern that you're observing. SageMaker Data Wrangler also offers a rich selection of pre-configured data transformations, such as convert a column type, rename a column, or maybe delete a column, or in other cases, you can transform your data into formats that could be effectively used for machine learning models without writing a single line of code. For example, let's say you easily convert a text field column into a numerical column with just single click. Another example is that you can also create new columns of data, such as monthly summaries or purchasing behavior from the raw transaction data. It also provides an automatic data consistency check to ensure that the data is consistent, such as date stamps using the date, month, year format. Earlier this year, we also announced a new transformation that allows you to balance your data set easily and effectively for ML model training. The newly announced balancing operator is grouped under balance data transform type in the add transform pane once you get into the transformations within Data Wrangler. You could also author custom transformations. And when I say custom transformations, you could do that in PySpark, SQL, and Pandas. And this provides kind of flexibility across your organization in terms of what kind of a language you may want to use for your custom transformation. The new time series transforms that helps accelerate the preparation of time series data with ML. And these transformers include resample, lag features, rolling window features, and also the featureize date time format. Data Wrangler records all the steps of your data preparation workflow in a data flow graph. This helps you understand what are the different steps or the workflow that you have carried so far. And also, you can visualize the order transformations and join and concatenate operators. You can easily navigate your data transformation pipeline and modify and delete the steps as you iteratively make progress. SageMaker Data Wrangler enables you to quickly identify inconsistencies in your data preparation workflow and diagnose the issues before your models are deployed into production. And people who are working on model tuning, you very well understand why this is important, because the cleaner the data you prepare and send it to your data models, the easier your pipeline is. And often it's a back and forth mechanism that you follow, right? So within the SageMaker pipeline. So it's very imperative that you identify if there are any issues within your data set pretty early at the life cycle. You can select a subset of your data, validate your model against that data, identify what could be some possible errors. You also can determine which features are contributing to the model performance relative to other features, and determine if additional feature engineering is needed to improve your model performance. All of this that we are talking about here is without having to deploy models into production. That's the key pointer. This is a huge time saver, right? Why is it a huge time saver? Because you're iteratively refining the features and improving the model accuracy, and all within the tool without having to go through your model deployment phase. You can run all your data processing workloads with just a single click of a button. You can easily browse Amazon S3 and specify your target output destination. You can also select the instance type, number of nodes to process your particular workload. Finally, you can easily take code into production with Data Wrangler without translating hundreds of lines of data preparation code. You can export your data preparation workflow to a notebook or a code script with just a single click, and that is to easily bring your data preparation workflows to production. You could also integrate your data preparation workflow with SageMaker pipelines or open source ML pipeline orchestration frameworks such as Kubeflow and Airflow. That is to automate your model deployment and management, or publish your features created to SageMaker Feature Store for future reuse and syndication across your organization. Now that we have a very good understanding or a theoretical overview of SageMaker Data Wrangler, let's get into SageMaker Data Wrangler demo. So the use case, as I indicated earlier, we'll be using today is customer churn prediction, where the objective is to build a machine learning model for automated identification of unhappy customers, also known as customer churn prediction. We will use an example of churn that is familiar to all of us. Leaving a mobile phone operator. Seems like I can always find fault with my provider, and if my provider knows that I'm thinking of leaving, it can offer timely incentives, and I can always use a phone upgrade or perhaps have a new feature activated, and I might just stick around. We will also share a link to the GitHub repo for the example that we'll be using. Here is the reference to GitHub, where you can find customer churn prediction Python notebook and the dataset references. In the dataset, you have a column churn, which is true or false. True means customer churned, false means customer did not churn or stay back. Now that we have a good understanding of our use case, let's dive deep into exploratory data analysis. We got into SageMaker through getting to the AWS console, and what you're viewing now is the SageMaker Studio environment. As I mentioned earlier, EDA is a tedious and time-consuming process. Let's assume that you have to do all by yourself without SageMaker Data Wrangler or Glue DataBrew. So in that case, how will you do that? You will do it all with Jupyter Notebook environment, right? So I have loaded a notebook sample for churn prediction in SageMaker Notebook environment that you're seeing. And as you can see, for you to interpret the trends and pattern in the data, you have to import libraries, convert the data to data frames, write code to visualize your data, and then carry on the transformation using code. So many lines of code for each transformation and visualization. This is all without SageMaker Data Wrangler or Glue DataBrew. This is how you do it. Now, considering all of this is going to be tedious, we are going to get into Data Wrangler. How can we do this very simply? To go to Data Wrangler, all you do is to go to File, New Data Wrangler Flow, and this is all within SageMaker Studio. And then first, we got to load the data from S3. There are different sources that you can select, and then we select Load Data from S3. And you select S3 here. And within S3, I have my data source in a specific bucket, and I'm going to open that bucket and also the data within the bucket. And then once I click on the particular data set, I'm going to say import. And as you could imagine, we will do back and forth steps between analysis and transformation. And in real life, that is how it works. Data wrangling is a back and forth activity. First, let's say we want to view the data set. And for viewing the data set, you select the data set, and then you will say that let's do an analysis. You have to just click on the data and then click on add analysis. And with the analysis, the first step, let's take a look at the table summary. So we just wanted to get a high level overview of the data set. This is all in CSV format, right? So we just wanted to understand how the data set looks. So to do table summary, you just select the table summary and give the analysis. And what you see here is pretty much count, mean, standard deviation, min and max. Those are the different statistical information about the table. That's what you get from the table summary. So this gives a high level overview of the data set, right? Okay, these are some of the statistical behavior. Now let's dive deep a little more. Let's say I want to do a histogram plot for two columns or for two features, which is voicemail plan against churn. And in this case, churn needs to be numerical because histogram typically is a numerical plot, right? But if you see in our data set, what do we have? Churn is either true or false, right? Which is not numerical. It's true or false. So in this case, what we should do is we need to convert the true or false to a numerical format, which is going to be 0 or 1, which is like true is 1 and false means 0. So for that, I need to carry out a transform to convert this. So what do we do? Now that from analysis, let us shift back to transform. So to do that, you go back to the workflow and then you click on transform. As you see here within the transform, you already have two steps there, which is the source as well as what are the different types. That comes in as soon as you load the data set. Now, once we got the data set, let us see how do we convert this to numerical. To change the churn to numerical value, we're going to use categorical encode, which is the ordinal transform within the transformation window. And here you go and select the input column. For us, the input column is going to be churn with a question mark, right, which has true or false. You give a name to the output column, and that is the new column that we are going to come up with in the transformation. And you say a preview. As you see, we now have a new column, which is churn, and that is going to be float, which is 0 or 1, which is a numerical value. Voila, we now have a new column with numerical values, which we can go and do the analysis. Now, once we are done with this transformation, let's get back to the histogram plot. And that's where we left off, right? So this is the back and forth that I was talking about. Now, for me to do this plot within histogram, I'm going to select VM plan in the x-axis, and color by churn is going to be on the other axis. That is how I'm going to color it and say preview. What you see here is churn that is going to get binned against a voicemail plan, and which is nothing but the count of records. And this basically says that we're going to have a good distribution of voicemail plan against the churn values, which is all going to be 0 or 1. So once this is going to load up, you will see that how the distribution is going to be within the chart value. Once you select the two axes, all we are going to do is just to click on preview, and then that loads up the chart. And we are still doing the histogram plot. Yeah. And this is how you do it. Once you do the transformation, you just validate if the data is loading, and then you see the binning value across 0 and 1. Cool. Now that we are done with the histogram plot, where you see the data distribution, let's do another plot. And let's say we save this for a later review. Let's save this analysis, and then let's create a new plot. And this plot is going to be a scatter plot. Let's do a scatter plot against the churn versus the evening minutes or day minutes. In this case, we will just use two axes like X and Y. And once you select these two axes, which is churn against eve minutes or evening minutes, you just click on preview. And once you click on preview, that gives you the chart, which pretty much says the distribution across the churn, which are going to be the binary values 0 or 1. This gives you a visual representation of how the evening minutes value is scattered across the binary value of 0 or 1 for churn. And then you save this analysis for later review as required. Basically, you preview and then later you save the analysis. Now let's go ahead and do a quick model build. We saw some visualization, we did some transformation. Now let's build a quick model. Again, All of this is happening within the SageMaker Data Wrangler, and we are not going out of Data Wrangler itself. To do a quick model, you select the analysis type as quick model and give a name to the model. And then you select the label that you would like to predict. And what is the label we are trying to predict? It's the churn. Is this customer going to get churn or no? In this quick model, we will also present, or what you see here is pretty much the model and the accuracy score of the model, right? And here is a quick model that we built directly within the SageMaker Data Wrangler itself. And consider this to be kind of a teaser for your next phase of model building and training process. I mean, I'm no way trying to reduce the complexity of model building, but basically for you to get an understanding of what type of data I have, what features are really important to me versus what is not less important. And then let me try to bring a model or try to build a model automatically and see how the model building phase would look like. So this is how you do that to get a teaser. And then here, as you see, you could easily determine what are your important features like day minutes, evening minutes, night calls, VM messages, international calls. And the features of less importance on the flip side, that's going to be your phone, because no one is going to switch their mobile operator because their phone number is different, right? Or the day charge, evening charge, night charge, or international charge. So those are going to be the features of less importance. And as you see, the F1 score also that is highlighted right on top, which is 0.851 on the test data set, which is not a bad score at all for a quick model build that you did. And as you can see, we quickly imported the data set, visualized the data. You carried out transforms such as converting a column to categorical, dropping the columns, as well as build a quick model. So as what you see as a summary, after you carry out the transformation, you can export the data transformation into the following. That could be S3 bucket or pipelines or feature stores or Python code. Now that we completed the SageMaker Data Wrangler, I'm going to take a pause to see if there are any questions so far.
Yeah, hey Raj, we covered a lot there, and I think the thing for the folks watching in today is the purpose of Data Wrangler is to really help make the data preparation that scientists and analysts have been going through previously a lot easier whenever they're utilizing the SageMaker suite of ML products. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, that's right, Clint. So broadly, we just want to give a simple interface for users, data scientists, or people with different machine learning expertise, right? You could go from 0 to 10, and you could be on any spectrum, but we just want to give a point and click, because a machine learning process, as we all know, it's a complex process, and there's going to be a lot of back and forth. And what is needed is a fully integrated system. So for that, SageMaker Studio environment, or SageMaker as a whole, is your one-stop shop for your entire machine learning pipeline, of which we just took one component, which is SageMaker Data Wrangler, which is a point and click, or you may call it low code, no code solution to wrangle your data, or to prepare your data, or to transform your data, all your data preparation before you feed the data to machine learning process. This is how you do all the data prep. And are there any specific questions?
Yeah, we did have one that came through here. It's sort of an umbrella question there as it goes with SageMaker. It's from JibJab06. Thanks for tuning back in again, JibJab. How does SageMaker Data Wrangler work with SageMaker Studio?
Yeah, I'll keep it crisp. SageMaker Data Wrangler is a feature within SageMaker Studio. It is within SageMaker Studio. So as you already know, SageMaker Studio is a feature-rich environment where you do your end-to-end pipeline. Once you load the SageMaker Studio, once you create a new domain and launch your SageMaker Studio, you could go ahead and use the visual interface within SageMaker Studio to do your entire pipeline. Like you could do feature engineering with Feature Store. You could also do the integration work between model build and model train, and you could access your Jupyter notebook basically through the SageMaker Studio, right? And then on the left side or the left pane, that's where you integrate the GitHub, etc. So one of the aspects within SageMaker Studio is Data Wrangler. So as we saw in the demo, once you log into the SageMaker Studio, you go ahead and open a new workflow within the studio, and in that workflow, one of the components is the Data Wrangler flow, and then that's where you start working on your data. And the key differentiator here is that it's all within one integrated system. So you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to go out of SageMaker at all. You can wrangle with your data, prepare your data, and then with the ease of integration with other tools like S3 or Feature Store, you can quickly move around with your data. Or there are also third-party tools that are integrated within Data Wrangler. And in those cases, once you select the source to be the third-party tools that you're looking for, and often, as you see, the products are iterative and we expand based on customer use cases and feedback that we get. And it is only going to get expanded in terms of support to new tools, etc. So the idea here is SageMaker is going to be your one-stop shop for your ML pipelines, and within SageMaker, Data Wrangler is your tool for wrangling with your data, if that makes sense.
No, that makes good sense, and it was a good explanation. So thanks for that, Raj. So for the attendees online, please feel free to throw your questions as we go through here today, and then we'll get those over to Raj. But that was the question that has come through for now, Raj. So back to you.
Awesome, thanks, Glenn. So we are like through the halfway mark of our session today. So as I said earlier, we wanted to cover two tools, right? One is SageMaker Data Wrangler, and the second one is Glue DataBrew. So now that we've covered SageMaker Data Wrangler with an overview and then a demo, we'll follow the same methodology. We're going to do a Glue DataBrew demo, and then first is going to be an overview that is going to be followed by a Glue DataBrew demo. So before we get started, just an overview. AWS Glue DataBrew is a new visual data preparation tool that makes it easy for data analysts and data scientists to clean and normalize the data to prepare it for data analytics and machine learning. And as I'm going to get through Glue, a common question that we normally get asked, or for the audiences here as well, hey, we have SageMaker Data Wrangler. We also have Glue DataBrew. So what is the value prop here, right? So there is one particular slide that I've put together where we will talk about that. So for now, just so that we are all on same page, these two are two different tools within two ecosystems. Your SageMaker Data Wrangler is within your SageMaker ecosystem, and your Glue DataBrew is another tool for data wrangling, which is available within your Glue ecosystem that is on the data analytics. So often data analytics and machine learning go hand in hand. So we wanted to cover both the tools on the complete spectrum. And these two tools, the commonality between these two tools is that they both are low code, no code visual interfaces, and consider them to be point and click. Cool. So before we dive into SageMaker DataBrew, I'm interchangeably using the features and the service name. Glue DataBrew. SageMaker Data Wrangler is done, and now we are into Glue DataBrew. So let's first talk about Glue. AWS Glue is serverless data integration service that makes it easy to discover, prepare, and combine the data for analytics, machine learning, and application development. AWS Glue provides all the capabilities needed for data integration so that you can start analyzing your data and putting it to use in minutes instead of months. AWS Glue provides a visual and code-based interface to make data integration easier. Let's talk about Glue DataBrew in detail now. Data analysts and data scientists can use AWS Glue DataBrew to visually enrich, clean, and normalize the data without writing any code. And what you see here is pretty much the Glue DataBrew console. We will dive deep into it as we get into the demo section. Glue DataBrew auto-discovers the location, schema, and the runtime metrics of data from your AWS Glue data catalog. As I mentioned earlier, it is within the AWS Glue ecosystem. And it connects with your AWS data stores, and it provides an interactive interface to explore, combine, clean, and transform the raw data without writing any code. DataBrew auto-discovers the location, schema, your runtime metrics of the data, all from your data catalog. And it connects with your AWS data stores and provides an interactive interface to explore, combine, clean, and transform the raw data without any code. This is the slide that I was referring to just before getting started with DataBrew. Now that we've discussed SageMaker Data Wrangler and an overview of Glue DataBrew, a common question that I indicated earlier is that, hey, where does these two tools fit into the equation of data prep, right? So I'll address it in two folds or two phases. One is persona. So from a persona perspective, data engineers and data analysts can use Glue Studio and DataBrew for data preparation. On the other side, your data analyst and your data scientist can use SageMaker Studio and SageMaker Data Wrangler for data preparation. When it comes to the complexity, this is the second aspect that I was talking about, the complexity and coding perspective. Consider Glue DataBrew to be a tool for no code, where you don't have to bring in any custom code for data wrangling. On the flip side, let's say that you have custom code. You've already built the custom code, right? That could be in PySpark, SQL, or Pandas. In those cases, you can use SageMaker Data Wrangler to run your custom code because you already have the code and you want to have a mechanism to run the code. Again, if you do not have the code, you can still choose DataBrew or SageMaker Data Wrangler. But for custom code, the way to do is through SageMaker Data Wrangler. It all depends on where your data resides and where in the pipeline you want the data analysis and transformation to take place. Is it closer to your ETL base or is it closer to your ML pipeline base? As you imagine, it's not a simple one way or the other answer, but largely it depends on your use case, what data analysis and transformations like native, built-in, or custom transforms that you would like to carry, on which data set, what format are they in, and where does your data reside? That's the source. And then which pipeline are you focusing your data transformation for? Also, not to forget, what is your downstream consumption? Is it analytics or is it machine learning, or maybe it's going to decide in a data lake? All of these put together, it's going to decide what kind of tool option that you got to choose. But the key pointer here is a visual interface for you to do all your data wrangling. Now with the Glue DataBrew, let us explore all the features of DataBrew. We are going to cover all of this in detail in a demo. So we'll quickly glance over those features within DataBrew. In Glue DataBrew, the project workspace presents you with a visual view of your data. And it also allows you to perform your data prep on a step-by-step basis and see the results of change after each step. So you can quickly iterate between them. I carry out an analysis and then I see the results. I carry out an analysis, I see the result. In the schema view, this is another view within your Glue DataBrew. You can see the statistics about the data column in each column. And you can rename a column by entering a new name for the column name. And you could also arrange the column order by dragging and dropping the columns. DataBrew has a rich profiling functionality. It's just in a few clicks, you could get a synopsis of your data. Users can create data quality rules that brings customizable checks to your data set. And it also allows users to access the data quality based on unique business use cases. DataBrew provides options to help identify PII data, personally identifiable information data, and that is through running a data profile. And as well as once you identify the data, it also helps you carry out few transformations for masking or redacting the sensitive data. Data scientists can use Glue DataBrew from within their Jupyter Notebook environment as well. The Glue DataBrew environment tab or the Jupyter extension, we'll share a link to the GitHub repo where you can get the Jupyter extension. An outlier, right? This is an aspect that is normally discussed during your data preparation phases. An outlier is a data point that is noticeably different from the rest. And this represents an error in measurement, bad data that could be from the collection, or simply show variables not considered when collecting the data. right? So it is important to identify these outliers pretty early in your data prep, because your model build phase could be skewed because you did not find the outlier pretty early, and you presented the data with an outlier, and that outlier could be a huge influencer for your model outcome. And you can remove outliers as required directly to the point and click interface that you have with Glue DataBrew. DataBrew also tracks your data in a visual interface to determine its origin. We call that data lineage. And this view shows how the data flows through different entities from where it originally came from. And you can also see its origin, other entities it was influenced by, and what happened to it over time, and where it was stored finally. Great. Now that we covered the Glue DataBrew as an overview, let's get into the demo, and then finally we will wrap up with any questions you may have. Awesome. So let's get into the Glue DataBrew demo here with your demo environment. What you're seeing now is the Glue DataBrew console, and we are going to bring in the same data set, which is the churn data set. And I've already loaded the same churn data set to DataBrew. And as you can see, we have data sets, projects, recipes, data quality rules, jobs, and what's new on the left pane, and the different data set that is loaded in the console under the data set. You can preview the data once it's loaded, and you can also see the data set details such as name of the data set, data size, where is it coming from, that is the source, and are there any projects or jobs associated with that particular data set right on top where it says data set details. And you can also see the different columns of the data right at the bottom. That's where you preview the data set. DataBrew also offers a rich data profile overview, which we're going to see next. And as I click on the next tab, that is where you see the data profile overview. You will run a data profile job to get to this data profile overview, which we'll cover in the later part of the demo. And you can also understand the correlation matrix, what you see here, that basically gives you a visual representation of how two variables are related with each other. So in this case, 0 means there's no relationship between the variables. This will help you determine which features you may want to retain and which features you may want to drop based on the relationship. You don't want to have a highly correlated data information being fed into your data model. You can also see the value distribution comparison, which is a numerical value that is scaled between 0 and 1 that gives you a comparative view of the distribution across the columns. You can also get column statistics view, and this is all coming out of the box. You can view the column headers, how many records are valid. Let's say 100% is valid, as you see on the left column. And you can also see the top distinct values, as you see on the right side. In our case, what you're seeing is basically the state distribution of the top distinct values. And then you can also analyze the data quality using data quality rules. And that's what we are seeing right now. And data quality rules are customizable validation checks that define business requirements for specific data. And finally, the data lineage, as you see here, where is your data coming from? What is the source? And what is your data set? Info on project, is it related to a particular project? And in that case, it will also tell me if there is any job that you ran against the data and where the output of that job is getting stored. Now that we took a deep dive into the data set aspects within DataBrew, the next thing that we're going to talk about is projects. And consider projects as a place where you're going to carry out all your transformation. And once you get your data set, you will create a project. And that's why you want to carry out all the transforms. And to create a project, what you will do is that you will first enter a project name. And then you'll also select the data set. and then you can use tags as required, and then select the role that I'm going to outline here. And then all after that, you just click on a project. And I'm not going to click on a project here because I've already created a project just to save time. Let's open that project and see what we could see within the project. So you have 3 views within project: grid, schema, and profile view. Grid gives you an overall view of the data set that includes statistical headers. Your schema view, which is the next view, that gives you detail on headers. So let's move to schema view. Yeah, this gives you details on headers, where the type of the data in the column and data quality and distribution. And finally, the profile view. We already saw about the profile view. That gives you an overall profile view with statistical information about the data set. Cool. Now that we have a good understanding of the different views, let's say we want to group the data set. This is the transformation I was talking about. In our case, we want to aggregate the state against churn count. You could do anything, but I'm just taking an example of aggregating the state against the churn count. You select the column as state and churn aggregate as count. And the next one is going to be churn aggregate as count. And what you see here is that for each state, how many counts we have for the target label. And here the target label is going to be churn. Cool. And this is one other view that we can get. This is a different information that we could get. And let's say that we want to do a categorical mapping of the churn column, right? So this is going to be the same transformation we saw earlier within Data Wrangler, converting the true or false to 1 or 0. It's pretty much the same. I'm just going to do it with DataBrew and see how you do it. You give a name to the destination column and also select the values to be, you first say, hey, if it is true, it is going to be 1. If it is going to be false, it is going to be 0. And then after that, you also select what is the column header for destination that you're going to select. In this case, let's say that we're going to say churn mapped. That is going to be the target header. And then now we click on the new column with this churn mapped, which is going to be the numerical value. And now with the value that is getting mapped, we are just going to click on apply, and that's going to load the data set with the new column. You see the churn map there, which ones or zeros. That just came out of this transform. Now that we have this column, we can drop the old column, which is churn flagged with the true or value. The last thing I want to call out is how do you go about creating a job? Yeah. A job is nothing but within DataBrew, it is just like a work order, and it performs the tasks that you assign to it. That could be like either scheduled or on demand. So to do that, you get into jobs on the left side, and you can create either a data profile job, or you could even create a recipe job, whichever that you want. And data profile job, this is exactly the one that we spoke about earlier. Within the data profile, you are seeing an overview of the data, right? So this is how you will run a job to get that view. And to create a job, you will say that, hey, create a profile job, and select the role as required, and then create and run job. And I'm not going to create a job here because I've already run one. And I'm going to open up that profile job. Here is the profile job that we already ran. Yep, these are the profile jobs that we ran previously. And this data profile overview, once you click on that job, it's going to bring that overview. And that is nothing but the first screen that we saw before we got into the demo, right? So this is how you will run a job to get that data profile overview. I was just trying to work backwards. Like, this is the output that you get first. And how do you get that output? This is how you get it, by running that particular job. So just as a summary, right, finally, to wrap up, with SageMaker, Data Wrangler, and Glue DataBrew are 2 options for you to do your transformation. Just on the Glue DataBrew alone, the data profile overview, that is where you can visually analyze your data set. This is the analysis phase. The pictorial representation, visualization, that is where you do all the analysis. The second page that we saw, which is the profile view, that is where you do all the transformations within the project. So when you get into the projects, that's where you do all the transformations. Awesome. So that's a lot of information. I get it, but consider this to be kind of a teaser, right, in terms of what the point and click tools can offer you, like SageMaker, Data Wrangler, or Glue DataBrew. And there's a lot more we could do, but as you know, with the limited time, these are the things that we can showcase. So you get a feel of what you could do with a point and click tools, and thereby you can use it for your respective use cases. Again, as I said earlier, it all depends on the use cases that you have. Cool. Now that we are done with the demo, let's see if there are any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Raj. And that was a really good presentation, two fantastic demos that we went through. So we do have a question here from a first timer, Whoopsie123. Are the steps generated by point and click saved somewhere, for example, in the form of a script?
Absolutely. So I think I covered this previously, but let me rephrase that. So once you do all these activities, right, with regards to Data Wrangler or DataBrew, say for example, Data Wrangler, right, you do all the point and click, you create a new workflow, you do an analysis, and then you go back, do transformation, etc. Once that is done, you have an option to export. So there is a particular feature to export, and those exports could be to different sources. You may want to export it as a script and keep it for later reference. You can store it in S3, or you may want to take it into a feature store also. So there are different targets where you can export these steps, and you can do that repetitively. And the point here is that data analytics, data integration, or the entire data prep workflow is an iterative process, right? So you may want to do it for a sample data set and iteratively apply to other data set. So that is why we have this feature to export. Awesome.
Nice. That was I don't believe there's any other questions, and we are at about time for today. So for the folks tuning in online, thanks for joining in. Glad that explanation was clear for you there. Today we looked at two topics, which was SageMaker Data Wrangler, which is going to help you reduce the time to simplify your data preparation processes, as well as Glue DataBrew, which is a visual data preparation tool, which your different data teams can use to help clean and prepare the data. If there are questions that were not answered today, please feel free to head over to repost.aws, where you can either ask your question, or maybe you can help answer one of your fellow online colleagues' questions there and become an expert, maybe dive a little deep and try to answer a question to help somebody out. And those could actually turn into be topics for a future AWS Supports You discussion, which is actually what we'll be doing next Monday, where we're going to answer a few questions off of Repost Live and have a few demos to go along with it. If you do have a topic of interest, please feel free to send us an email at awssupportsyou@amazon.com. We definitely want to hear from you and get your feedback. So for now, that's all for today. Raj, again, thanks so much for joining us back on AWS Supports You. It's fantastic to have you here, sir.
Anytime. Thanks a lot, Glenn. Hope this is all useful for you. Wishing you all the very best.
Absolutely. And everyone online, happy cloud computing.